Hello, this is Eric. I'm recording a quick video on the change that I'm going to make to the shell. I'm just going to get this light set up over here. Um, in Bash, so in regular Bash and Linux, I can call sh with this -c parameter, and I can run a command. Adjust that a bit. So I can say echo hi as my argument to -c. I would like to add this functionality to Phoenix Shell in Pewter, which if I zoom in and try to do that, if I do Phoenix and I say -c, it's not going to do anything useful right now. But if I go into the element inspector and I find the window for Phoenix, which is pretty easy, so there are two windows with no contents, and one of them is going to be the one I just opened, which I assume Chrome will put at the bottom of the list of possible window objects. Type pewter.args. Um, you can see this one actually doesn't have any args. So Phoenix doesn't preserve the args. This might have been a really bad demonstration of this actually. But an important piece of information for me. Let's continue to do that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the Phoenix that was started inside the other instance of Phoenix. And we can see among its parameters, there's one called command line or command underscore line. Google Chrome makes it a little difficult to do this, I feel. -c echo hi. So we're able to pass command line arguments to apps. This is being sent through the iframe URL itself. So if I expand the right one, which I guess might be this one, and we go into window body and then the iframe, this URL would have the arguments in it in pewter args. So this isn't the instance of Phoenix that the arguments are passed to. We can tell because that's empty. I would expand it, but then it will reveal an auth token, although that's a local development auth token, so it probably doesn't matter, but it's good to be in the habit of not doing that anyway. So the first thing to check, which I already did before I decided to start recording this as a video, was where the arguments are being passed, or where to process them in Phoenix Shell. So that's over here. At this point, pewter.args, whoops, pewter.args has all the has command line.args as a member in it, which has the actual arguments. The reason why the args aren't just pewter.args is because these args are named parameters. So that's the native pewter protocol for passing arguments to an app that you're launching is with named parameters because I think that makes more sense. And then for compatibility with terminals, there's the convention that you have a named parameter called command line with a member called args, and that's where an ordered list of args is stored. So eventually, I'll probably have some kind of conventions set up where if you expect your command line flags to be in like the POSIX standard format, then they get coerced into the parameters that the app sees or something like that. But for now it's just this. And what I need to do now is figure out if I can use an existing argument parser before I go ahead and try to parse the -c and then command string over here myself. Because the tricky part is, in the example with sh, I just wrote a bunch of equals because I was trying to zoom this in. In the example with sh, -c only has one dash here, which a lot of conventional argument parsers will take to mean there is no argument to this. Otherwise, it would be something like dash dash c equals echo hi. So I don't know if the argument parser that I'm using in Phoenix actually has this capability. So we're going to check that first. And we check that by looking at one of the command definitions on this one. Yeah. And we see that command definitions specify what the argument parser is going to be. This one's called simple parser. So then I can search simple parser, which I already put in my search, and find where simple parser is registered. Simple parser is registered here. So source Phoenix source and C shell arg parser is simple parser. That's where that is. And a simple parser, simply an implementation of this process method. That's what a argument parser needs to have. We have the ability to specify a different argument parser if we want for the built-in core commands in Phoenix shell itself. And this appears to be package.js parse args. So I want to test this in the REPL and see what happens if I specify like a -c argument of type string. So there's two things I need to do that. First, I need to go in the right directory. So this is going to be in Phoenix shell and run the Node REPL. I need to be in this directory because I want the package that it's using to be available. And this should work as is. I think I might need to use require because I'm using the REPL. Let me see if import works in the REPL just because that's what this uses already. Parse args from, I don't think it does. No, there's, oh, we can use the await imports. Right. So now we have parse args. And I need to remember how to use that. It looks like we passed the options and then the args as well. So in this case, our options are, that is a call from North Carolina, definitely a scam call. Okay, trying to figure out if options is one of the options or how we pass that. Spec.options. Okay, so it's options. Options, and then we create a list of options, which is an object. This is where I want C. Type string. And now I think we can pass the args as another parameter here. ls. Oh, this is where I need to look for that. Args, yeah, args is a sibling to options, it looks like. We'll try -c echo hi, as in my example before, and what do we see? We see we have values, and c is equal to echo hi. So that this argument parser is actually sufficient. I suppose it would let me do --c as well, and it does. What does bash do if I do that? Or what does sh do if I do that? It complains. I guess it's fine if it also accepts the two dashes as well. I don't see any issue with that. And so I can use that argument parser here. So the next step is figuring out how am I going to use that arg parser here. Is it as simple as importing it and using it? I think it should be. So let's get this import from line 19, put it on line 22 here. I never bother sorting imports because I figure if that ever becomes a problem, we can just script the sorting of imports. You should never sort things by hand. That's just silly. It's my controversial opinion for the day. All right, so we have parse args, and Should be able to just remember how to use that. Where were we going to use it though? That's the question. I feel like I had my cursor there, and this is ls.js. This is not where I mean to be. Okay. That's me just running around aimlessly for a bit, but we have this import here, and now on line 76 we want to use it. So in order to use it, we need to pass it our options, which is going to be C, which is going to be type string, and then we're going to pass computer.args.commandline.args. And we need this member from it, just values. There's also positionals. Maybe we need both. I'm not sure if we need both, but because this launch pewter shell function, when I pass it a context, I would want this to have named parameters. So I think for now what I'll do is just grab values. Anything else called values in here? Nope. So I'll grab values and I will explicitly put that in here somewhere. This is platform, externals, config. I feel like this is config, but it's not. I think I'll add this as its own member to context. I'll call it init arguments just to sort of differentiate it from other arguments, because the concept of arguments definitely comes up a lot in Phoenix shell, being a shell. So we have that there. So now all I need to do, I think, is add the part where when it launches the shell, it just runs that command and exits instead of going into the loop. So where is this defined? Do we have a go-to definition here? We certainly do. Launch pewter shell. This is where we do the prompt iteration, and this is where we see if that's a thing. And if that is a thing, we see if Copilot just already knows what to do. Copilot wants to say the -C option is not supported in this shell. No. We're going to actually implement the behavior. It believes there is something called dispatch command. That seems false. That seems false to me. It's looking at dispatch event and it's making an inference from that, which is actually very funny. I think if I go to the ANSI shell class, which has this do prompt iteration thing in it somewhere. Whoops. Do prompt iteration. How does it execute a command? It's going to create a subcontext firstly. So I might need to do that. And then it's going to create a pipeline and run that pipeline from the input, because it only does one iteration. Let's see. I need an execution context. I don't need read line. I don't need to support the debug prefix. I do need run pipeline. This dot run pipeline. I'm not passing a context here. So this execution context is for read line, which I don't need. So I don't need the execution context actually. So I just need run pipeline, and input is still a string. So this should be as simple as await ANSI shell dot run pipeline that, and then that should work. I was worried for a moment I'd have to refactor all this code, but it seems to be the case that I had the foresight not to couple this execution context with the way the inputs running, and I didn't actually parse the input over here. It looks like I parse it in run pipeline. For parsing scripts, that's going to be a pain, but that's going to be just a different wrapper around run pipeline, I think, somehow. Okay, so I guess I need to test it. We still have Chrome open. Cool. That's auto building because the self-hosted server just does that by default. It looks like it's frozen. That is because we threw an exception on, yeah, in main underscore shell. That's not this, that's this. And we're throwing that because I'm not checking if this is undefined. Rather than check that, actually, I'm just going to coerce it. So if not, pewter.args. I think pewter.args will always be there. args.command line, make it an object, set args to that. That should be fine. I think this should be changed in the SDK. That's why I don't want to add it as a conditional check. And in fact, I'm just going to quickly add it to do comment here. Move this into Tutor's SDK instead. Okay. So we can get a different error. Apparently process is not defined. This was not on my bingo card. Exec arg. What? How is this happening right now? Oh, this is when we call parse args. It's trying to get the arguments from elsewhere because I passed this argument incorrectly. This is an argument called args, and yeah, it's that. I didn't have to even paste it. Copilot just rewrote it for me. Interesting. Okay, so oh, Phoenix shell launched. Right, that's what I was hoping would happen. So now if I do Phoenix-C echo hi, look at that. It works. It didn't bring me back, and there's no way to get out of here now. That's a hang up that the SIGINT and Control D, neither of those will actually, SIG hang up, that's what it's called. Neither of those will actually close that. I think that's because I return here, and returning here was the wrong thing to do. What is the correct thing to do? Can a Pewter app close itself right now? It's actually an interesting question. I'm gonna go in a different directory, run Phoenix because we don't pass the CWD doesn't propagate over yet, so that it's a good test to see if I run Control D. Control D did nothing actually. I was gonna say it's a good test to see if I run Control D whether or not I end up back to the original instance of Phoenix using the paths here. Okay, so exit. That doesn't work either. And that to me makes sense because I don't think at present a Pewter app has a way of closing itself. That might be another issue entirely. If it is, I'm gonna save that for another video and link it here, but let's find out first. And the way I'm going to find out is I'm gonna run editor as a command. If I close it, we never return back to the shell, so that's already an important piece of information. So if an app is closed, the command doesn't resolve. So that's one thing that's true. The second thing I want to see is if I go into the editor, do I have like a pewter.ui.close? And I don't seem to have that option. If I quickly go to docs.pewter.com, because I may as well also read the documentation. It looks like we do have exit. It'll terminate the running application and close its window, but it's not on pewter.ui, despite being in the, is it part of the UI module? It is not. I see. So this is actually part of what? An index here. So this is the pewter class, where all the modules are. It looks like exit is just a function on this. So this is a UI, I guess, behavior. Well, the way we've defined it. It's part of the UI module in the documentation sense, but it's not actually part of the UI module, which makes sense. Okay, so knowing that, equipped with that new piece of information, if I open the editor and go to the editor's window and run pewter.exit, pewter.exit works, and we still hang here. So that's the next thing to figure out. For the thing I was doing that this task was a prerequisite of, I actually don't care if it hangs when the command's done or not, because it won't uh, be done until you close the window. So that's fine. So that was that piece of work. So I'm gonna commit this as is, and then continue to fix this this hang later on.